Well, a day after the final election, we asked the question, is it possible D'Onta Foreman could run for office in 2020 or at least earn a trip to New York for the Heisman ceremony this year? Plus, can Shaka Smart in year 2 at Texas repeat what he did in year 2 at VCU? We're making college crossfire great again next. I guess we'll get into it, guys. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
Roll up the sleeves for this one.
This Dallas team was very overrated from the start, like they always are every year.
The talent there, Kevin Mack, Eric Davis, and Cronin Roach are maybe 3 of the most talented guys in the team.
Oh, that's an ugly shirt. Always a pleasure having you on, guys.
Time to freak out, Reese.
Welcome into College Crossfire. I'm your host, Reese Miller. Believe it or not, only 2 shows left in the fall semester of this season, but plenty to get to on the docket for tonight. Great panel as well. Very excited about the show. Eric Goodman joining us again, second straight week, looking to defend the title. I don't think you've ever won 2 in a row. Definitely won 1 in a row several times.
For sure.
But Jumbo Shrimp, all-time rant last week.
Appreciate that.
I expect big things today.
I'll tell you what, Reese, if I was doing any better right now, it just wouldn't be fair to everybody else.
Wow. Didn't even ask, and you took Mark Skol's line. I actually want to thank you for taking his line, so I didn't have to ask you. But, Mark, I guess I'll ask you now to see if you can think of a different response. How you doing?
I'm not doing that great right now.
Yeah, well, I can obviously see that. But it is good, certainly, to have you back, especially since I don't have to hear that from you. I can hear it from Eric. Steve Helwick, some people in hockey call them the man of the match. I call you the man of the MAC conference. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing pretty well, Reese. How about you?
Great. Can't wait for some NIU hot sports. I know you're missing the game right now, so I appreciate you joining us, guys. A different game that went down over the weekend with possibly a little bit more impact, at least for Charlie Strong's job. And for Texas, the Longhorns getting their first road victory of the season, 45-37 in Lubbock. Guys, Texas has won 2 in a row now. They're still undefeated at home with, of course, West Virginia coming in this weekend at number 11. Quietly, Texas has also won 4 straight games over teams ranked in the AP Top 12, dating back to last year, guys. For the past 4 or 5 games, the players, after each loss or win, have been saying, our goal is to win out. And I think most of us thought that wasn't really possible, but 3 games left to go, and it really sits in front of them, guys. So the question is, can they win out and ultimately save Charlie's job, Eric?
Well, I'll say this about the Texas Tech game this past Saturday is that it was actually, I've never been more impressed with this Texas team under Charlie Strong. Yes, they've had some really impressive surprise victories over like highly rated Oklahoma, Baylor teams. But this was a game that all signed, like after they won those games, they would usually lose the next game in heartbreaking fashion. That didn't happen this week. They went toe-to-toe with Texas Tech and their possible Heisman candidate quarterback, and really, demonstrated that they're capable of winning games on the road when they're favored, which has been the question mark all year, all tenure for Charlie Strong. And it's a great sign of encouragement, especially considering their only road game left is against Kansas. They've been outstanding at home. West Virginia and TCU obviously going to be very difficult tasks at home. No reason why they can't win those games. I still think they drop one of those 2 home games to West Virginia and TCU, but I definitely see a 2-1 finish to end the year.
Well, 7-5 sounds really good when it was a 3-4.
Absolutely.
Looking at a 3-5 start, but you're right. Very impressive. It seems like that would be a game that they would drop. 11 a.m. kick on the road. Anyways, Mark, what do you think about the possibility of Texas winning out?
It's definitely possible. Not saying it will happen, but for sure, it's definitely possible. I mean, every single team in the Big 12 is beatable except. I mean, every team in the Big 12 can beat anybody in the Big 12 except for Kansas, and they're going to beat Kansas. West Virginia, TCU, both toss-up games. I feel like pretty much every game in the Big 12 is a toss-up game except for the Kansas game. So I definitely think they can win. Will they win? It's going to come down to play calling, and you got to feed the rock to D'Onta Foreman. You saw it last week on 3rd down and 4th down. He gave it to Tyrone Swoops. You just got to keep feeding what's been working with you, and that's been D'Onta Foreman. When the going gets rough, go to that guy. He's been the best player on that Texas team this entire year, maybe one of the best players in the country. So if you keep feeding the rock to him, I mean, there's definitely a strong possibility they can win out.
Gosh, man, what are you doing? What are you doing, Sterling? You've got 341 yards on the bench and you need 2 more.
Unreal.
Anyway, it's a topic for a different day. Steve, what do you think about the possibility of Texas winning out?
Texas has been so successful at home this year, and they're lucky that their 2 toughest games left this season are at home. But I still think that they go 2-1 just because of how unpredictable how the Big 12 games have been so tightly contested with Texas. They're win or lose. Just a couple points, they could beat Kansas State. Just a couple points, they could lose to Baylor. And I think West Virginia is similar to Kansas State in the fact that they have a tougher defense. They only give up about 20 points a game. They could limit Foreman, but I think West Virginia could beat them this weekend, and Texas could still finish 2-1 and 7-5 on the season.
I like that, Steve. West Virginia, obviously, number 11 in the AP poll, so a very good season so far. Only that one loss, Steve. I think you're going to get the points here. It feels like a little bit of a K-State type of game. A little bit. I don't want to call it a stingy defense because it is the Big 12, but stingier than Texas Tech, perhaps. So Steve's getting the point for question 1, guys. Speaking of Mr. Deonta Foreman, 341 yards, adding to what's been an already terrific and memorable season for the junior tailback, guys. 10 straight games now over 100 yards every game this season and the last 2 of last season as well, guys. 1 away from Earl Campbell's record when he won the Heisman in 1977, guys. Starting to generate a little bit of Heisman hype, guys, but do you think he pushes himself further into that conversation and ultimately at least get an invite to New York, Mark?
I definitely think he does. I think he should, at least. I don't know if he will. I mean, you talk about how most of the people who are in New York for the Heisman ceremony, they're usually on teams with pretty good records. Texas doesn't really have that. If they win out, I think there's a really good possibilities there. I think if they go 2-1, I think there's a big possibilities there. But I mean, look at this guy. He can't be stopped. I mean, 341 yards. Granted, it's against Tech's defense, which is one of the worst defenses in the country. But when you look at a guy like Deonta Foreman, who's just been running the table here, he almost has 1,500 yards, and he sat out a game against UTEP where he probably could have had 200 in that game. So this guy is so good, and it would be a shame for him not to be in New York. He probably won't win. I think it's definitely Lamar Jackson's trophy to lose, but he's got to be in New York. Yeah. Even though Texas doesn't have the best record.
Yeah, maybe this is a topic for a different day, but maybe we need to reconsider how we evaluate the Heisman race because it seems like it's the best QB on a top 5 team now.
Yeah, it's an individual award. It shouldn't be based off of team records on the individual.
The top 3 right now have the quarterbacks of 3 of the top 5 teams in the country. Steve, what do you think?
Foreman is leading the game and leading the nation in rushing yards per game, and he's also coming off of a week with 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Texas is 5-4, and that is going to limit its chances of getting to New York. This is a stacked Heisman class. So many offensive juggernauts around the nation. You have Lamar Jackson, Jake Browning, Deshaun Watson, and Jabril Peppers, who plays everywhere on the field. I could not see Foreman sneaking in to that race just because of how limited the Heisman invitees have been recently. They're all on successful teams, New Year's Six Bowls, championships, and Foreman just is on a 5-4 team. He's carrying them to that record, but I don't think he gets the invite to New York thanks to Texas's record.
Yeah, so Steve says no invite to New York. Eric, what do you think?
I think he's got to get to 2,000 yards, and if he does that, I don't think there's any question that he'll get the invite to New York. If you look at kind of the last couple of years, usually the nation's leading rusher is there. Last year, Derrick Henry won it, and obviously he was on an undefeated or a 1-loss Alabama team. So, and Deonta Foreman doesn't have that benefit. But he certainly has the benefit of being the workhorse back. I don't see that 100-yard streak dropping anytime soon. I think he absolutely can get over 2,000 yards, possibly even by their last bowl game, especially if he puts up another 300-yard bomb like he did last week.
With Kansas on the schedule. With
Kansas on the schedule, absolutely. I think he can get to 2,000. If that happens, it's his invite, and won't win, but it'll be nice to see him in New York City.
Yeah, that'd be great. It feels at least deserving, right, for a 2-star guy who, remember, was splitting carries in the first couple games this year. Mark, I like what you said. I think it comes down to if they win out, and I think if Texas wins out, he carries them to that. He gets an invite because he may be saving somebody else's job as well, guys. Year 2 of the Shaka Smart era begins on Friday. Texas preseason poll number 21 team in the country, guys. Last year, obviously upset in that first round on the half-court buzzer beater. Lost 6 players from that team, but they brought in a top 5 recruiting class and several talented sophomores as well, guys. What do you expect from this season in year 2 of Shaka Smart? Year 2 at VCU, Commodores went to the Final Four, and this year, what do you think, Steve?
I think that this recruiting class is going to come and flourish at the end of the season. It might not start hot, but with Jarrett Allen and Andrew Jones, those are 2 5-star recruits. Texas is getting the star players from high schools now, but the problem is that they might be having their eyes on the NBA draft. They will still perform at a high level. It might take a while for Texas to regroup with the loss of eBay and Lammert and Isaiah Taylor and Felix and pretty much their whole core of 2015-16, but I still think they make the tournament for the 18th out of 19th year with the recruiting class.
Yeah. So how far do you think they can go in the tournament?
They'd probably be around a 6-7 seed, but it could be a win, maybe a loss, just like last year. Probably a toss-up.
Yeah, 6 seed last year, right?
Yeah,
Upset
6 versus 11.
Seed. Yeah. Eric, what do you think about the Longhorns' chances this year? Young, interesting team to say the least.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy different year compared to last year, because last year, even though it was Shaka Smart's starting 5, it was Rick Barnes' players, Rick Barnes' recruits that were playing most of the minutes of those games. And this year, based on last year's freshman class, this year's very highly routed freshman class, highly touted, it's going to be a lot more athletic. You don't have those big, huge bodies like Cam Ridley and Prince eBay to slow things down. So I think you're going to see more of that HAVOC style that Shaka Smart brought to VCU. And another point, not so great for us fans, but Texas isn't really playing anybody in their non-conference schedule to begin the year. But I think Shaka Smart did that very intentionally because he knows this team's going to need a few games to gel. And if you schedule somebody like UNC early in the year, like you did last year, I think you could have been looking at some losses just based on lack of chemistry. So I think it's a very wise choice for Shaka Smart not to schedule big power players early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, you get that road trip to Michigan, a trip to Brooklyn where you play Northwestern, maybe Notre Dame, but
other than that, yeah.
Not a whole lot. of Bam at home, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think about the Longhorns?
I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains this year for the Longhorn team. You look at a team that has a bunch of freshmen coming in. This isn't a Kentucky team when you have the Harrison twins coming in, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis. These aren't superstar players yet. They could be. They have the potential to be, but they aren't that yet. There's going to be a bunch of growing pains. They haven't really worked together yet that well. We don't see that chemistry yet. San Angelo, yeah, they blew out San Angelo, but it wasn't, I mean, they didn't play their best basketball, so I definitely think there's going to be some growing pains. Also, they don't have the presence in the paint. I think that's going to hurt them really big time. So I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains this year.
Maybe the Fro Bros and Shaq Claire, give them a little something down low, but it really is full of question marks. I'm really intrigued. Steve, I like the Javon Felix mention. Anytime we can get Javon and his massive chest and three-point shooting in the show, I love it. But Eric's getting the point because I do think it's finally Shaka Smart's players, and we'll finally see him implement into that system. Guys, that's going to do it for round one. But up next, we will cover the bold predictions for the second half of the NFL season, and our panelists hit the hardwood. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to your home for live sports debate. This is College Crossfire. I'm Reese Miller. So far, a great one, a barn burner to start off, guys. 1-1-1. Just how we like it. After round one, we've covered Texas football and a little basketball as well. But now we shift to a bit of a broader perspective, guys, where things currently stand in college football. The second college football playoff ranking was released this week. Probably the ranking everybody thought it should have been. Last week, of course, A&M with that loss at Mississippi State has dropped out of the top 4. Woo! Just kidding. We're not biased. We're unbiased journalists here at UT. Jokes aside, Washington has moved into that number 4 spot. Top 3 remain the same teams, guys. The question is, how do you expect this to shape up over the next couple of weeks, and who's a team that can jump in there with 1 or maybe even 2 losses to break up that pack of Clemson, Michigan, Washington, and Alabama, Eric?
This might surprise you, but I was actually surprised by the rankings, the top 4 rankings this week, because after Ohio State's dismantling of a top 10 Nebraska team, I thought they were going to vault Washington. If A&M was going to be ahead of them last week with a 1 loss to Alabama, I thought there was no question that Ohio State, with just a little hiccup in State College against Penn State.
Against the top 15 team.
Exactly, and for that reason, I think the Buckeyes are in. I think they have that Michigan matchup at home. It's going to be an instant classic. I think we're all going to have our eyes glued to that screen, and I think Ohio State pulls that game out at home. I think when that happens, they're in. I think Michigan could still survive that loss to Ohio State, get in. I think Oklahoma might have a shot as the only Big 12 team remaining with kind of a realistic chance But we'll see if Washington and Clemson win out, because if they lose, might be end of the road for them.
Yeah, OU's interesting. It's similar to last year. Obviously, they have one more loss, but they're building, had those early season losses, and they're building this momentum. But that's going to be the question. If Ohio State wins, do both of those Big Ten powers survive?
That's the first playoff game, Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, great. Can't wait. Mark, what do you think?
Well, you look at the first two college football playoff rankings. You've seen A&M in that 4 slot, and now Washington. And I think the college football playoff is wanting to get teams in there that have historically not been in there, have not been teams that have been in the top teams in the country. So that's why they had A&M, that's why they have Washington, and that's why I think it's going to be Louisville who's going to be sneaking there. I think they have the best player in the country in Lamar Jackson. I know I would want to see him on the biggest stage. The Clemson game was an instant classic. You were talking about instant classics. That one was amazing. Came down to a game of inches. To see a rematch like that and a potential Lamar Jackson against the Alabama defense, I would love to see that. That'd be awesome.
It's an interesting point, because you know ESPN wants star power. They want stars, and Lamar Jackson is a star. Only thing hurts them, they don't really have any late season. The Houston game, doesn't mean as much now, but
they went out. I mean, they went out.
Yeah, Steve, what do you think?
You look at the top 4 right now, and then all the teams outside, and I think there's only one team outside that controls their own destiny, where they can win out and they get automatically in, and that is the Ohio State University. They have one loss to a close Penn State team, to a good Penn State team, but if they beat Michigan in Columbus, they dismantled them last year in Ann Arbor. If they can beat them in Columbus this year, then they have that and a Big Ten title game against a decent Wisconsin team, tough Wisconsin defense. It would be a rematch. I think Ohio State can return to the playoffs for the first time since they beat Oregon in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah. Where's Western?
2014, that was a long time.
Where's Western Michigan at? Come on, let's get some Mac love on the show.
Mac. What?
Yeah.
Geez, Western Michigan. Where's Western Michigan in the college football playoff?
Too low. That's where they are.
Okay.
Of course they're too
low. Or
I think Mark's getting the points just because I hadn't thought of the ability of star power and what that does. But I think you're right. I think they want them in. Washington, I think, loses to either USC or Washington State and drops out. And I think only one Big Ten team gets in, guys. But moving on, we have reached the midway point. Actually, 1 week past the midway point in the National Football League. Plenty of early season storylines from the actual decision 2016, Dak versus Romo. We've got the Seattle Seahawks, the Oakland Raiders surging lately, and of course, Tom Brady being, well, perfect so far in his return, guys. Time for bold predictions in the second half of the NFL. Things that might surprise you that you think we'll see as we move on to the second half of the season. It's weird. We're there. Mark, what do you think?
This is bold. Not saying it's going to happen, but it is for a sure thing bold. The NFC is garbage this year. There's not that many good teams. The Packers are sitting at 4-4, but there's a team that is 4-4 right now that I think will make it to the NFC Championship, and that is the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
They beat the Seattle Seahawks. They dismantled the 49ers. They've got a top 10 QB, a top 5 QB in the National Football League in Drew Brees. And you got a nice wide receiver on the outside in Michael Thomas, who I think is slowly climbing into the top wide receivers in football. I like their offense, not so much the defense, but I think they can compete with some of the best in the NFC, because I don't think the NFC is that good.
I like that. Got to get past the Falcons. I think the Falcons are still best team in that division, but I like that. Never count Drew Brees and
Dirty
Sean Payton out. Steve, what do you think?
This prediction would have raised eyebrows a week ago, but I see both the Oakland Raiders and the Atlanta Falcons representing their conferences in the conference championship games this year. You want to talk about elite quarterbacks? That's what Derek Carr is. Derek Carr just threw for 513 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then the next week he goes out and beats the Denver Broncos, the reigning Super Bowl champions. Khalil Mack's leading the defense. They look strong defensively. And on the other side, in the NFC, Atlanta has a great offense. Matt Ryan leading the league in passing. Julio Jones looks as good as ever. And with a weak NFC, I think Atlanta represents the conference in the conference championship game.
So you've got Atlanta and Oakland making to the Super Bowl, or just
conference championships?
NFC and AFC conference.
Patriots in the Super Bowl for the AFC.
Okay.
NFC toss up between probably Seahawks and Falcons.
And Cows. Eric, what do you think?
I'm so proud we haven't mentioned the Cowboys yet. That's not going to change right now. Okay. I have the Cleveland Browns winning out. No chance.
Okay, that's bold.
That's chance. Bold. There's no bold predictions for this year. The Patriots are going to walk into the Super Bowl, and as a devastated anti-Patriots movement guy, it pains me to say it, but they are blowing teams out. I don't think Tom Brady's going to be stopped this year on his crusade to show Roger Goodell up. So no bold prediction. I'm sorry, but Patriots win the Super Bowl.
Right. I kind of agree with you because I think Tom's out for a sweet revenge. So I kind of agree with you, but it's not a bold prediction. The Saints are But the Raiders and the Falcons, two teams that have just been through the ringer. And I think it'd be really fun to see Derek Carr and Matt Ryan go at it at some point down the line, guys. To the hardwood we go of the NBA so far. You got a little bit of a surprise atop the Western Conference standings. So far, the OKC Thunder have that only one loss to Golden State, of course, but they sit atop the Western Conference. The Clippers, who trounced the San Antonio Spurs from right down the road on I-35 here from Austin, guys. So the Thunder and Clippers right now are the top two teams in the Western Conference. Then you have the Dubs, Spurs, a few other teams of surprise. Jazz have woken up a little bit. They've beaten the Spurs. So, guys, are things changing in this Western Conference? And specifically, are the Thunder and the Clippers, the top two teams in the West right now, above what we thought would be the Dubs and the Spurs, Steve?
You just mentioned the Clippers trouncing the Spurs, but then the Spurs annihilated the Warriors, who beat the Thunder pretty badly, who beat the Clippers. There's a whole circle of parity already in the West that's shaping up, but the Clippers are coming out. They're looking like the best team right now, but that's the same unit with the Paul and Griffin and Redick and Crawford that's been in place for ages. The Warriors and Spurs, meanwhile, are still adjusting. Life after Duncan for the Spurs. Warriors, how are you going to fix rim protection without the lack of Andrew Bogut, Kevin Durant in the scoring system? There. You're going to have to fit that in. I think the Spurs and the Warriors are the two most talented teams still, and I think they make the necessary adjustments to remain atop of the West.
Yeah, probably a good bet. I will say the Dubs don't have the same depth and definitely not the same interior presence as last year, but obviously so many scores. Eric, what do you think?
I think this is kind of proof of how great the Warriors and Cavaliers were last year, that we take every single loss like college basketball as like a season-crushing loss. Yeah. It's November. These teams have played a max of 9 games. I don't think you can draw anything at all from what you're seeing right now. I still expect, these super teams, especially the Warriors and the Cavaliers, to be there in the NBA Finals. I'm very lukewarm with my picks right now, but I mean, I don't think they're going to be wrong picks. So, yeah, I mean,
definitely a good bet.
Yeah, that'd be where my money is.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, what do you think?
Way too soon to start talking about this. I mean, I think the Warriors and Spurs are by far the best two teams.
By far the best two teams?
By far the best two teams. OKC, I was watching the OKC Warriors game, and I was like, who is this number 8 dude for the Thunder? I had no idea who the guy was. Half the team, I had no idea who the guys were. They didn't really look that good against the Warriors. I definitely think the Warriors, they need to have time to build that chemistry. When you get 4 superstars on one team, someone's got to be able to shoot the ball. They just got to get that chemistry. They'll get it going. I mean, you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers the first year LeBron came back to Cleveland, started out the season 19-20, went on to the NBA Finals. It's way too early to start making these judgments. Warriors are by far the best team in the West. It's going to be a Warriors-Cavs rematch in the Finals.
Wow. So boring, but I think I will give. Wow, everybody's cheering for Steve. I think I'm going to be swayed. I'm actually not going to give into the crowd, and I'm going to give Mark and Eric the points because it is too early. Did not ask for bold predictions, just where they ranked in the West, guys. You guys are getting the 2 points, but great stuff, Steve, as always. I hope we can get a little bit of mix-up and not make it so darn boring in the league, at least once football's over, so we can have something to watch, guys. Great score right now. We've got a tight one. Headed for rapid fire. We're going to light that up, so you will not want to miss it next. Welcome into College Crossfire. It is that time once again here. Every Wednesday night, right around this time, we double the points. We fire things up. The hot sports opinions start flying my direction, guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. You guys all know how this works for the viewers at home. I'll ask a question. You guys hop in. Points are doubled, guys. Really tight score. Right now it is 2-3-2, guys, so it's anybody's game. First question. We've seen so many great fads over the last couple of years. Facebook, Twitter, social media has given us so much access. The latest one over the past couple weeks has been the mannequin challenge. It seems like every college football, basketball, anything and anyone is doing the mannequin challenge, guys. This is pretty high up there for me on my fad rankings, but the question is, what is the best fad you can remember? Internet fad over the last couple of years.
For me, I'd have to go with the Ice Bucket Challenge. I like the Ice Bucket Challenge a lot because, one, it was just cool to get so many people involved. It was cool to see all these videos on Facebook of people dumping cold water over themselves, but it also raised a good awareness for for the ALS, and it was.
There you go.
glad you remember what it was.
No, but it was great awareness for ALS. Raised a bunch of money, and I think that was. It wasn't just a fun thing to do. It also got money for a charity. So.
Did you do the Ice Bucket Challenge?
I did do the Ice Bucket Challenge. It was not fun. Not fun at all.
What about you guys? Best fad?
I loved the Running Man. I mean, very recent, but yeah. I mean, I thought that was that song is just so catchy, catchy.
What about you, Steve? You seem like a fad guy.
No, I'm not really on top of things. I'm not woke, as the kids today call it. But I would have to go with Mark too, where I'd say that the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, just because it raised for a good cause. That was the only one that I can remember participating in myself. It brought so much awareness to ALS disease, which Steve Gleason, so many other people.
Definitely a great cause, but you can't take his answer in rapid fire and say the exact same thing he said. So Mark's getting 2 points. Got no love for the Harlem Shake. I was
nice. How about planking? Planking was
great. Planking was great.
T-bowing. T-bowing. Give me the points. Give me the points.
I already awarded him to Mark, but T-bowing would have been probably the GOAT. And one of guys' final question. Donald Trump, of course, the 45th president of the United States. But the next best question would be if you could nominate a current Texas Longhorn athlete for president, who would it be for the win?
When I think of a guy who should be the president of the United States of America, who is represented well here at the University of Texas, I got to go to my UT basketball walk-on squad and Ryan McClurg. The guy has so much energy on the bench. Oh my gosh. Can't go Joe Schwartz. Never Joe Schwartz, but Ryan McClurg. Ryan McClurg, that's the dude. I love that guy. He shows so much energy. He's always positive, always passionate. That's
the new Danny Newsom.
The new Danny Newsom. Yeah, not as cool as Danny Newsom. Wouldn't be as good of a president as Danny Newsom, but Ryan McClurg.
McClurg Newsom, 2020. I'm in.
2020.
I'm in.
Oh, they would win it all. They sweep it. Everyone would vote for him.
What about you guys?
I've got someone who has already brought immense pride to not just the University of Texas, but to the United States of America. Courtney Okolo from Texas track and field, gold medalist in the 4x100 at the Rio Olympics.
That's strong.
Put her in the White House. That's good enough for my vote.
That's strong. Rio, any Olympian is strong. Nick, sorry, Steve, what do you think?
I'll just have to go with Deontay Foreman, just because he's been so dominant of recent. He's
pretty strong.
He's a guy everyone Texas can back behind. Everyone's supporting him now. He's getting that Heisman race going on, and everyone is back behind Foreman. He's someone that the whole Longhorn.
I would be behind it personally, but I'm not even sure he's going to get an invite to New York for the Heisman ceremony, so I definitely don't think he can get an invite to the White House, guys. Mark, you're getting the 2 points. Congratulations. I'm assuming we have no time for FaceTime, but I will appeal to you anyway. We do have a very short time for FaceTime. Tell me about the Chicago Cubs. I know you've been waiting to do it.
Yeah, I wish there was a question tonight about Chicago Cubs, but thank God I got FaceTime so I can talk about it. Best Game 7 of all time. I was hyperventilating. I was shaking. Oh, man, that was amazing. Best Game 7 of all time. Best baseball game I'll ever watch in my life. But, man, that was incredible.
Yep. Sports are all about, guys. Great job, Mark. Gets the win. Steve and Eric, thank you so much for being on the panel. And thanks to you for always watching us here on Wednesday nights. We hope you'll tune in for the final 2 shows of the regular semester. A big thanks to everyone back in studio, Master Control. We wish you a happy and safe week and weekend, and we will see you next week right here.